Hello and welcome back to my channel. How you doing? Today I want to do a video on my all-time favourite series just because I want to talk about them so much, and maybe I'll give you guys some recommendations for some new books that you might want to pick up. I have seven series I have. Some I have not finished, but they're still like my favourite series, and these are not in any particular order except the top 3. I do have top 3 that are in order of preference, but they're like very close, so like they could change at any time. But without further ado, let's get into my all-time favourite series. The first on my list is The Land of Stories by Chris Colfer. I only have the first 3 books, but these are on my list because they're so fucking cute. I haven't read them in a while, but I remember reading them, and like they're technically children's books, but they're so cute and they're so easy to read. Basically, they're about these twins called Connor and Alex who fall into the storybook full of fairy tales that their grandmother gives them. These fairy tales, however, are not exactly how you would imagine them. For example, Goldilocks is a wanted fugitive, and Red Riding Hood has her own kingdom. So they're not how you would imagine them from, like, you know, your childhood or something. But it's so interesting. And like, yes, I said they're children's books, but they're so good. And Chris Colfer deserves so much like love and appreciation. Look how easy they seem to read. Like, the writing is big enough that it's not tiny. And I think I read this first book in like a day or something, because it was so easy to read and it's so good and it's so cute and the characters are amazing. You should read it because Chris Colfer deserves more love, and I don't hear about this series a lot, especially on BookTube, but it's just saying you should read them because they're amazing. Next is The Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare. This trilogy is a prequel to The Mortal Instruments. It has the ancestors of characters from The Mortal Instruments and it has Magnus Bane. If that's not a reason to read them, I don't know what is. They're set in the 1870s in London, where Tessa Gray, our main character, arrives in England and is immediately caught up in the world of Downworlders, which is vampires, werewolves, fairies, etc., and Shadowhunters, which are demon hunting warriors. To be honest, I prefer this trilogy to The Mortal Instruments. I just prefer the characters. They're a lot more original, I think. Because if you read The Dark Artifices, they're kind of like the Mortal Instruments characters, and while these ones are ancestors of them, they're not carbon copies, if you get what I mean. But the writing is so beautiful, and I love this world, and I love the characters because they're so flawed, but they're so good, and each of them have, I don't want to say like tragic background, but they have their own tragic backgrounds. If Magnus Bane wasn't a reason to read them, Will Herondale and Jem Carstairs should be, because they're both amazing and they're honestly some of my favourite characters of all time, especially Jem. Jem is a gem. He's adorable and precious and I love him so much. Next is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. Now this is not a series that I have not finished, and you might be saying, but Cody, how do you know you like the series if you haven't finished it? It doesn't take a lot for me to like a series, but I don't have Library of Souls, so I'm kind of putting it off so I can binge the series now, because there's a 4th book coming out, right? But what I did think is they are amazing and they're so interesting. Like the plot, this kid called Jacob, or Jake, travels to Wales after his grandfather is killed, and warns him to find the bird in the loop, which is quite cryptic. Thank you, dying grandfather. And he finds the ruins of Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children and discovers that the peculiarities that these children have aren't exactly as simple as he thinks. Mystery. Again, drawing style is so beautiful and I love it. And the story and the plot is so interesting. And throughout the book, there are these pictures that kind of go along with the story. I don't know, like, some of these could have been found. I don't have the background of these pictures, but they're so interesting. Just look at and think of the backstory and think of how it connects to this story. And they're like creepy, but in a good way, in a way that makes the world more rounded, I think you could say. It makes it more like you can picture better. That's how it is. You can picture the world better by these pictures. But again, you should really read this series because it's so good and it's so interesting. Next isn't going to be a surprise if you like follow me on Twitter or something, but that's The Maze Runner. And I know this is a series that some people, or a lot of people on BookTube don't like, but I fucking love it so much. It's so good. Before I continue, it kind of annoys me that I don't have the same cover for The Maze Runner as the rest, but let's just move on. So this follows a boy named Thomas who is sent up into a maze full of boys, and he doesn't know who he is, where he came from, what he's doing there. And this book follows his adventure trying to figure out why these people are in this maze and how to escape, as if all the boys weren't trying to figure this out for 2 whole years. And because it's through Thomas's perspective, we're figuring things out with him. We're, you know, finding the clues with him and trying to figure this entire mystery out alongside him instead of knowing more than he does. So I quite like that. I quite like figuring things out with the main character because it doesn't make me frustrated with him when I'm like, this is what you do, but he's doing something else, if you get what I mean. And I know a lot of people don't like this because of the writing style or maybe the characters or the plot, but I truly felt really connected to the characters. I fell in love right away with the characters, especially the main one that everyone loves, Newt. Fucking love him so much. And because I felt so connected to the characters, I felt like I was in the maze with them, discovering this mystery alongside them, and it made the story and the book a lot more interesting and personal, if that makes sense, because I felt like I was there with them. It felt like it was a mystery for me too, and my own life as well. And you know, everyone loves when they can just sink it into a book and feel like that they're with the characters, discovering whatever it is you have to discover. It's not for everybody, as a lot of people on BookTube don't like it, but if it's the kind of thing that you would like, I recommend picking it up and definitely give it a shot. And if I'm being honest, the Fever Code is the best one. But don't read that first, read this last because it makes more sense that way, but it is the best one. It is getting really warm in here and I don't like it. Can it be winter again, please? So now into the top 3, and these shouldn't be a shock to anybody because they're pretty fucking obvious if you know me at all, even slightly. But anyway, number 3 is Percy Jackson and the Olympian series by Rick Riordan. What can I say about Percy Jackson? Greek gods, demigods, monsters, a camp where these powerful children go to train with swords and stuff every summer, sometimes during the year. What more can you want from a series? I mean, come on. So Percy Jackson starts off with Percy Jackson, a tiny, sarcastic 12-year-old who got kicked out of 5 schools already and is about to get kicked out of his 6th. And then he discovers he's the son of a Greek god. And the Greek gods are dicks. This series gives me such a nostalgic feeling because I read it when I was around Percy's age, maybe a small bit younger, so I grew up with these characters who are all amazing and strong and badass and incredibly flawed, which makes them all the more better. We have badass female characters who are strong and smart at the same time, as well as so much conflict between different characters. And later in Rick Riordan's different series, Heroes of Olympus, Magnus Chase and everything, we have some beloved characters coming out as gay, some bi characters, transgender characters, etc. And it's so good. And Rick Riordan is the most diverse author I've ever read. And it's amazing because everybody sees themselves in it. There's so many people of colour. And it's amazing. If you haven't read Percy Jackson, first of all, why? And second of all, you really need to, because it's, while Percy Jackson and the Olympians might not be the most diverse, because this is his first series, if you get into this one, and then continue with the rest, it gets more diverse as it goes on, and it's so good. I feel like I'm just repeating myself, but Percy Jackson, man, gotta read them. And then you gotta read Heroes of Olympus, and then King Conquers, and then Magnus Chase. And then tries Pollock. There's so many Rick Warren books. I swear to God, I don't even have them all, and I've been picking his books up since I was like 10. I don't even have them all. I don't even think I've read them all, but you should. Number 2 on my list of all-time favourite books is The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. I don't like how they rearranged the order. Language Mojo needs to be first, just saying. Set during World War II, 4 children, Peter, Susan, Edmund and Lucy Pevensey, are sent to the country to live with Professor Dickory Kirk. Here, Lucy discovers a wardrobe that transports her to the magical land of Narnia, where it's forever winter, never Christmas. And she meets Mr. Tumnus, and then the other 3, Peter, Susan and Edmund, discover later on they meet the Beavers and they go on all these adventures in Narnia, and it's so magical and so cute, and I love it so much. Again, Narnia is such a nostalgic series for me because I read it when I was like 6 years old, and they're really small books. They're like less than 200 pages each, so they're really small and really quick to read, and the round is really big and it has really cute pictures. So you could read I read all 7 in 6 days, so you could probably read them all in one day. I don't hear about this series a lot, which is really weird because it's one of the most popular series, isn't it? Especially the movies. The movies are amazing, but the books are just so cute and the characters are amazing. And Edmund is my favourite Pevensey. I'm not going to spoil it, but he's my favourite Pevensey because of, his character development and what he's like in the last battle. And while we're speaking of Narnia, look at this amazing edition of The Magician's Nephew I bought. I got it for €3 too. Look at these pictures. If you haven't read Narnia, do, please. Because as I said, they're such small books, they're really easy to read. So you have no excuse. You have no excuse, so I'm watching you now. Have you guessed what number 1 is yet? Because if you haven't, where have you been for ever? First favourite series is Harry Potter. These are really heavy. And yes, Harry Potter is my favourite series of all time. Who would have guessed? So if you don't know what Harry Potter is about, it's about 11-year-old orphan Harry Potter who discovers he's a wizard and is about to go to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, where he has many adventures, trying not to die, with his best friends Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger. Harry Potter will always remain my favourite series of all time. Even if I come on camera and say this is my favourite series, it always excludes Harry Potter, because this will always have a special place in my heart. We all know I'm Harry Potter trash. I'm Harry Potter trash, true and true. Again, just like Narnia, I read this book when I was 6 years old. I grew up with these characters and I grew up in this world. When I was younger and I didn't have a lot of friends, these characters were my best friends. Hogwarts was, and still is, my home. If this was my favourite series, it would be a shock. I love every single character, and some are just good villains, really good villains like Bellatrix, and some are good to love, because when I grew up, I found out more about their backstory, or more about their character, and I fell in love with them, like Draco. Who doesn't love Draco? And yes, technically they're children's books, but they're not children's books. Especially as you go on, they get darker and darker as the series goes on, because more and more evil starts to come out in the world in them, and the government gets corrupt, and this great evil has been defeated. And I remember being on the edge of my seat every single time a character was in a certain situation, or if I was wondering if my favourite characters would survive. Also, I don't know if it's just me, but is Harry Potter a Christmas series? I always get a Christmas vibe off them. I want to reread them or rewatch them at Christmas time, and I don't know why. Is that just me? Or is it just is it a general thing? So that, my friends, was my top 7 favourite series of all time. Some of them can be changed out, but the top 3 are never going to be changed out. They're always going to be my favourite because I grew up with them. Now, a question that I never really do, but I'm going to do anyway. What's your favourite series of all time? It could be your top favourite, or your top 3, or top 5, whatever. What's your favourite series? If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of my face, you can subscribe here. My last video is here. And I will see you next time I see you. Goodbye!